Hi, Dr. Caxton Perry. I want to share some things with you. Again, I want to open your eyes to what's going on. I come from Nigeria, where there's a lot of chaos, a lot of corruption, and a lot of oppression by the government whenever they can oppress. So what I want to do with you, is just explain to you the freedoms you came here for, or that you were born here to experience and enjoy, are right now being threatened. Can you imagine a medical doctor being able to oppress you and make decisions about what you can and cannot do? He's not even competent enough to do that. But that's what's happening with the NIH. The major study that I'm going to mention here is called the Bullaware study. See, the Bullaware study looked at 821 patients. These were all young people in that study. What I say, young, average 40 or less. All right? And you see, in that group, there's something called a treatment effect. And we saw that. Out of the 719 people that eventually were accounted for in this study, they said 107 developed symptoms. 107 developed symptoms in the Bullaware study that was reported in the New England Journal of Medicine. All right. So out of 107 people that developed symptoms, if you had a headache, it was considered COVID. If you had a sneeze, it was considered COVID. Out of that, this is interesting. People don't know what's at stake. They argue, they're happy. We're going to vote that guy out. We're going to do this. That doesn't matter. What's important is your freedoms are going to be taken away. We come from a place where you could do anything, but there's no law. It's lawlessness. And you can see with the riots. But let me share with you. Out of those 107, let me read what the NIH in its treatment guidelines said. They don't want anybody using any agent for pre-exposure prophylaxis. They don't want anybody using any agent for post-exposure prophylaxis. They don't want anything. And they don't even have anything. This is pure arrogance. But they know a lot of you are not going to read the actual journals. Even doctors are not reading the journals. They're just echoing whatever is said on the media. So let me read this to you. The study had several important limitations. Only 15% of the patients who reached this primary outcome, all right, meaning of the 107 patients that developed symptoms, out of that 107 that they were guessing, this is how poor this Bullaware study was. Out of 107 patients that developed symptoms that they thought could be COVID, only 15% were actually tested by the standard testing method, RT-PCR. So, people talk about the evidence is in the randomized trials. This Bullaware study is that randomized trial. And out of 107 patients, they only tested 15%. 16 patients. So how do you say that's a good study? 16 out of 107 patients were tested. So you were guessing that what? That only out of those 15%, that's 107 patients, 15% of that, or 16 patients. Those 16 only were confirmed. 16 patients. Come on. Okay. Number two, and these are the studies that are now being used to set regulations and restrictions. I want to share with you what's called the treatment effect. You see, if people are young, unlikely to get sick, unlikely to get hospitalized, then treating them will not produce any significant treatment effect. Okay? So it's like saying if you have 18 to 25-year-olds, for example, they don't have high blood pressure. So if you start giving an 18 to a 25-year-old group of patients blood pressure lowering drugs, you might not get much effect. There might even be a lack of treatment effect because their vascular status is so awesome. You might even have a counter by giving them something that lowers their blood pressure. You might actually reverse that and increase their blood pressure. In other words, in that young group, you get no or very little treatment effect. In the same manner, the COVID-19 positive patients that were used in Abela study, which was one reported in the JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association, in September, they used the young healthcare workers. You see, when you use that group who are unlikely to get hospitalized, unlikely to have symptoms, unlikely to be admitted to the hospital or even go into the ICU, you are unlikely in the same manner to get a right treatment effect. And guess what happened? Only one person in 125 only about 8 out of 125 people ended up with symptoms. Ended up being positive. 8 out of 125 volunteers. Almost half of those 125 patients got hydroxychloroquine. The other half, almost, also got a placebo. Now watch carefully. 8 of those 125 patients total became positive for SARS-CoV-2 after being exposed working in the hospital. And 8 of them became positive. And out of those 8, 6 developed symptoms. Out of those 6, none of them became hospitalized. None of them became sick. Now, this is a very young and healthy group. And we all know that that's not the rest of the population. Yet, they want to apply that study to everybody. It's an ecological fallacy at work to do what they want statistics to help them do. It's a fraud. And if you follow this thing carefully and you end up being defrauded of your freedoms, you'll have yourself to blame. You cannot get much of a treatment effect in that young COVID infected group because they are going to recover anyway. When you start going up to patients in their 50s, 60s, and 70s and start giving them hydroxychloroquine, then you might get a treatment effect. And the magnitude of that treatment effect may be quite significant. But Bulaware, Skipper, Bella, Mixture, they were all using young people. And so hydroxychloroquine looks like it's not effective. Ladies and gentlemen, the science of hydroxychloroquine guarantees a treatment effect when it's given to the right people. Do not risk your family dying just because you don't like the guy in the White House. Leave that spot alone. You'll deal with that by voting him out if you don't want him. But on this issue of hydroxychloroquine, oh, please, doctors, I'm working in the COVID unit now, running it. We know what works. We're not going to start talking anymore because you guys don't want to hear. You've equated according to the Boris Chayenko plan and you've fallen for it. Absolutely. Look at the post. Please, for the sake of your loved ones, don't let the methodically corrupted system that's now being ruled by Big Pharma, don't let them kill you and your friends and family and your doctors. This is Dr. Kax Noperi. Have a wonderful day.